fundraising effort to put the Republicans back in power has kicked into high gear thanks to a few familiar faces. Former RNC Chairman Ed Gillespie and former Bush advisor Karl Rove are giving big donors the chance to open their wallets without revealing some of their identities. Holly Bailey is a senior political reporter for Yahoo News, and she wrote a great you mapped out sort of who are these Republican groups, and the reason they've risen up is the weakness of the Republican National Committee, distrust of some donors of Michael Steele. Walk us through some of these committees. I talked about Gillespie and Rove. Tell me their names of these committees and who are the big players behind them.
Well, there are four big ones that are actually sharing office space in Washington. American Crossroads and an offshoot of them, Crossroads GPS. Those are the two groups that Rove and Gillespie founded in March, and they plan to raise at least $50 million before November and spend it on ads and get out the vote efforts. There are two others that are sharing that same office space, the American Action Forum, which is associated with Doug Holtz-Eakin. He used to work for John McCain's campaign in 2008. Right. And an American Action Network, which is actually associated with Norm Coleman. And actually, Gillespie is involved with those two as well. And then there's two more. Resurgent Republic, which is sort of modeled off Democracy Corps, a polling sort of nonprofit. Right. And then another one, the Republican State Legislative Action Committee, which is going to raise money for state elections.
Right, and that has to do with, of course, the congressional redistricting that's going to be taking place. Tell me this, a lot of these groups, they come up with these great press releases, and they have these great first events, and it's all designed, frankly, to show the donors, skeptical donors, hey, we're a legitimate group, give us money. All right, Rove and Gillespie say they're trying to raise $50 million. What's the evidence that they're even close to getting $50 million? Well,
we do know that they raised at least a $1 million check in March from a single donor, a Dallas Energy executive. But right now, a lot of this money is secretive. I mean, in some ways, this isn't different than what we saw back in 2004 and in 2008 with these sort of innocuously named nonprofits coming up and purporting to raise all this money, but it's all secret money. They don't have to necessarily report it. They're all filed under a tricky tax code where, you know, we don't know who the money is going, and I think the only evidence we're really going to know is when we see the ads, when we see the get out the vote efforts, and they're sort of rising in response to the RNC's money problems. They're taking over some of the things the RNC should be doing.
Right. Now, some of this, there seems to be, they sometimes bump into each other. In 2004, you brought up all those third-party groups. A lot of them actually were on the Democratic side, if you recall. So they were trying to keep up with Bush's, at the time, Bush's money, but they couldn't coordinate very well. So you said that four of these groups are in the same office. How do they walk the line of the law here to make sure they're not violating the law of coordination and all that? I mean, how extensive is the number of lawyers that they have on staff?
It's unclear. I mean, I asked them very specifically, you know, how are you guys working together? Because they identify each other as sister groups, and plus they're sharing office space. They have the same phone system. When you call them, it's a directory of all these people working for these different groups. But they're very cagey. They said that they're going to be working with each other to the extent of the law, and sort of, but they also, the spokesman also told me that, you know, you can get big hints from what other groups are going to do just by reading about them in the media. So.
Well, that's the upside. They all want to tell us what they're doing for that that is the way some of these folks communicate. Anyway, Holly Bailey with a great sort of guide to these groups. It was fantastic work. Well done on Yahoo News. Good stuff. Good to see you back here. Thanks for being on the show. All right, up next.